I'm super excited, and I don't know if I get excited that often. It just gave us our year-end numbers, and they absolutely blow away anything I've ever done before, and I'm super excited. I'm so proud of them. It's incredible what they can do. But I want to tell you, the total number of homes we sold last year, 1,360. No way did I ever think we could do that in our lifetime. That amassed to $568,912,000 worth of sales, which we set a goal to go over 500 million this year for the first time ever, but I didn't believe we were really going to do it either. And my team just shocked me. We want to do whatever we can this year to help you get your business better just as well. If there's anything I can do to help you, call me, because that's what it's all about. We should all help each other. Thank you.
This is Mike McCann, the real estate man. I have Jim Allen, #1 coal banker in the world. He's a brother from another mother. I've known Jim since early 2000s, and we were both at another company together. And him and I would be in line at the national conferences, and we would be 4 or 5 or something like that. And we realized that we were both exactly alike, and we didn't fit with everybody else. And then before you know it, him and I were like 1 and 2 competing with each other on a national level. And we got to really respect each other because we both come from the same stock. And although he's my Southern brother. And so I'm honored to have Jim Allen. We're going to talk to him, but first I want to introduce Jim. I have Ben the Brit, who's going to be asking you some questions in a little bit. He's on my team.
What's up, Ben?
I have Asa over here who puts everything together. And I have Jim Onesti. He's been with me 20 years. She's the bestie. Jim, did you ever meet Jim Allen before?
No, we never met.
Okay.
Not yet.
So Jim, this is Jim knows all about you, from our 2 decades of friendship.
Right.
So Jim, just before we go on, and Ben asked you some questions. Thanks for joining us. And you're down in North Carolina. And just tell us, give the clientele, which is mostly realtors, a little bit about who you are, where you are, #1 agent, blah blah. Just give us a brief synopsis of Jim Allen.
So I've been here since 1985, and I've been the #1 agent in the Raleigh, North Carolina market since '96, and really been the #1 or #2 or #3 agent in the world for whatever company I work for since then. And I really started growing my team back in '96. And so last year had our best year ever. First time we cracked $500 million in a year. So we were about 562 million last year. We typically close anywhere from 12 to 1,500 homes a year.
Did you hear that? 562 million. Okay. Come on. Wow. You're a superstar if you do 30 million or 60 million or 90 million.
And I'm figuring out how they pay their bills when they do that. But so we've been doing this for a little while, and now it's gotten to the point. My new goal I'm chasing is I want to do $1 billion in a year, and we're right there. We are working hard towards it this year. I know we'll be at 6 something or 7 something, but that's the goal. And when you get old like me and you, Mike, we got to start figuring out.
Who's old, Jim? You were not old. You don't push.
Hey, I let people tell us but I tell you what, I think me and you're in as good a shape as these young kids. We jump down to do push-ups. I don't think they can hang with us. It's embarrassing.
So Ben's going to have a bunch of questions, but what I love about your story, and we love about each other's both, no one gave us nothing. We came from nothing. So just tell us briefly, Jim Allen, where he was born and how he got to, and a few things.
Born on the wrong side of the tracks in a bad little Danville, Virginia. And, literally, when I tell you this, I grew up in a 1-bedroom house. My mom, my dad, and my sister and I shared a bedroom and we had a den, a bedroom, and a little kitchen, 692 square feet. That's where it kind of started. And I thought we were rich. I had no idea we didn't have anything because, you know, it's just how we grew up. And I played baseball my whole life. So I came to college, played a little bit of baseball. And
wait, as a kid, what kind of work did you do? At what age?
I started literally 5 years old, priming tobacco on the farm. And well, when I could get my worker's permit at 13, I immediately went to get it because I wanted a break, man, because what I'd been doing my whole life was working myself to death. And my dad went and signed for me to get a worker's permit at 13. I got a job as a stock boy in a grocery store, and I worked there. And then when I turned 16, I decided I want a car. So in addition to the grocery store, I added a night clerk in a hotel. So I'd go right after school, after whatever sport I'd play, I'd go straight to the grocery store, work there till 11. Then I'd go and be the night clerk at the Holiday Inn until 4 o'clock in the morning, literally, and have to be back at school again the next morning at 8:30. So it wasn't like, if you wanted something in my path, I had to go work for it to get it, which real estate became like not even working compared to what I grew up doing. You know, I didn't know that this wasn't a job. The funny thing, when I graduated in engineering from NC State, I went down to the beach and was doing soil cement, hated it, did not like being an engineer, but putting things in a process like engineers do and problem solving has served me very well in this business. I came back one weekend, had gotten mono because I broke myself down working so hard at the beach, trying to do this soil cement in the wintertime, by the way. But anyway, when I came back, I applied all over the place for jobs. Well, they all offered me a job. I didn't even ask if it was commission. I was too dumb to know to ask, am I only getting paid on commission? So I go into the shop. I decided to start on this little small company called Powell & Company here locally. And I go in the first day, and I can still remember this guy's name, and he's in every office in the world. His name was Bert. I walk in, and Bert's on phone duty, and Bert says, hey, man, I'm getting ready to go get some donuts now. I don't know anybody in the office. I've only been there once in my life, have no idea how to use their phone system. He says, hey, will you cover phones while I leave? Okay. I'm the only one in the building. Phone starts ringing. I'm over here trying to press buttons. I have no idea how to push it. I quit hanging up on this lady, and she answers, and I say, hey, listen, I sell houses. And I don't know what else. I sell houses. What can I do? She told me where she was. I said, okay, I'm coming. Well, there were no cell phones. I get in the car. I drive over to where she is fast as I can go. Now, I don't have a lockbox key yet. And at the time, you had to have a lockbox key to get into a house. So I go rushing over there. I get there, and I get to the front door. I'm thinking she's going to open it. I got no idea. I get up there, and there's this little lockbox. Can't figure it out. Drive up to the corner, call back to the office. Thank God I kept one of their cards. I didn't have any yet. Call back their office, and this lady named Tess answers. And I said, Tess, what do I do? I'm out here trying to show a house and I can't get in. There's a little lockbox thing. She said, well, you can't show houses yet. You got to wait about 3 days and get your lockbox key, and then you can get in. Well, Mike, I didn't have any money. No chance is that happening with me, right? I go back, pull out my credit card, pick the lock on the door. Breaking and entering, my first real estate. Broke in the house, show it to them. They love it. Go back. I said, all right, let's go to the office and write an offer. Well, at the time, it was only a one-page contract like the old ones were, so it wasn't that tough. But it took me about 2 hours to fill out because I didn't know what I was doing. Get the offer written, drive it over to the other agent. Other agent calls me that night, you know, because we don't have cell phones, calls me at night on my home phone and says, hey, listen, you wrote an offer on this house, but it's not for sale. Well, what do you mean it's not for sale? I met my clients there. Well, no, we got the house next door for sale. It was a little townhome project. I broke into somebody's physical house, and it was his. The guy lived there. It was the model they were using for the community. And I wrote an offer on the wrong house. That was my first sale, first day in business. Now, when I get back to the office next day, Bert's there, who's been on phone to you the day before. He's like, you know, I hope you saved enough money because you won't make any money for 6 months. Like, what? You know, a chance, right? I know what my bills are, and I know there's no chance. I don't have a dime in the bank. Made a sale that day. I've never been a week in real estate ever in my entire career without selling at least one house. And, you know, now we sell a lot more, but never been more than that. And, you know, what I'm encouraged by, like, you know, all these people are out here freaking out about COVID-19. You know, it's impacting us too, but guess what? My numbers this year up 45% from last year, which was my best year ever. And during COVID-19, my least amount I've sold in one day is 4. And yesterday sold 14. The most sold is 20 during this.
Jim, we're moving down. We are locked down here in Philly. We are moving down, man.
Yeah.
Well,
I got to leave this interview. I got to get to work.
Because I can use y'all in the interim. But so we got declared an essential business. So all these people that everybody else thinks are afraid of COVID, let me tell you what they're doing in their time off. They're out looking for houses all day long. I mean, I've got these enter-only now lock systems that I use so that the public can go in, kind of like what Open Door does, so that they can go in without having our access, but it gives us all their information. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, all these people, we're up like 55% on those kinds of showings during COVID-19 because they're not staying home. They're all out looking at houses.
So this is like, I know we're jumping on. So this is like new construction that has a code on there, and the buyers can go in by themselves.
Right. So it's an enter-only now is the name of the system, and so it has to be a vacant house, obviously. And we put a little sign in the front yard. We've got a call center they call into. They got to give us their driver's license, where they live. I mean, they give us enough information. I could do a loan for them before we let them in the house. And, you know, while they're in the house touring around, if I've got an agent close by, I send them over, you know, still keeping social distancing 6 feet. But, you know, what you do, whatever the time is you figure out, how do I stay in business? What do I do different to make my business continue? Because, you know, when you run a machine like what we develop over years, you can't just shut down and wait. You got to figure a new way to do business.
I'm gonna Ben get to some questions, but just one more thing. Because what I like is when I know when you're young and you didn't realize how poor you were, but what made Jim Allen say? Because I asked him this question. I hope I don't get in trouble. I said, were you considered? Like, were you a hick when you were raised? Yeah, damn straight, right? So
no cool whatsoever. Total, you know. I mean, honestly, really, I just didn't know. Look, I can tell you, 16 is when I realized how poor I am. Like I might have shared the story with you. I'm going to the prom with this girl. Go up to her parents' house. Walk in, you know, everything's going okay. And I bought myself a car. So, you know, they're okay with me driving and all that. I walk up and the lady says, now, where do you live? And I told her my address. And she's like, oh, man, wait a minute. That's on the other side of town, right? I said, yeah. She said, is it safe over there? Isn't that a really bad area? I mean, I'm going to a prom and this lady's closing me down. Before I told her this, she's like, oh, I love you. You're such a nice young man. Can't wait for my daughter. The moment she heard this, her dad's like, are you sure it's safe for us to send him? Guys, y'all have got to be home by 10:30, no matter what. And we're going to the prom and it's 9 o'clock. I mean, so we're going to get to stay there an hour and a half just because of where I lived. And that's when I really realized, I guess I am poor. I mean, you know, didn't know it before then, but you know,
what made you, like inside you, what made you say, I want to be successful. I don't want to stay where I am in this lot. Like, what do you think is the difference between you and maybe some friends that grew up there or people or attributing?
I mean, honestly, it put a chip on my shoulder. I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
I mean, I was the tough guy. I mean, you know what? I wasn't ever big, but I tell you what, people didn't want to mess with me because I was angry. And I was mad because, you know, I didn't do anything to be where I was. I had great parents, great people, great sister, all that stuff. But because you didn't make but so much money a year, they put you in this little class over here. Well, I didn't want to be there anymore. And I just determined in my life that I could impact that. And my mom, look, we all need somebody who believes in us. My mom told me from the time I was a kid, I don't care what they got you don't have. You put your pants on exactly the same way, no excuses. And she would not allow me to have excuses. So sports, whatever it was, brother, let me tell you, you didn't want to be on the other side from me because I was going to try to kill you. When I played sports, it was life or death for me. And the other guys just out there, natural talent, big, whatever. Let me tell you, I was the little engine that would kill somebody. And
right, always underestimated. So you had to overcompensate, and
exactly.
Honestly, and that's why we meet a lot, because I was always underestimated no matter what I did, and I was always going to make sure that that if you could do it, I could do it. Ben, Jim, I'm going to have Ben ask you some questions, because Ben is like a professional speaker or counselor, not whatever, guy who's interviewed many people, many very successful people. He's on my team. He's got into real estate sales 3 years ago. So Ben, ask Jim some questions. So he's got a funny accent, Jim. I know you got a funny accent too, but his is even funnier, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the hick and I'm the Brit. Okay.
Oh wow, there you go. I like that. That's his is sexy. Mine's kind of makes me sound.
I know. That's what I told him. I like. Yeah. I know. Go ahead.
So Jim, real quick, just to go back, because we're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about now and in the future. But there's some really good things that you were saying before. First question I have for you is, what actually attracted you to real estate? You could have chose many different walks in life, but what was it about real estate that you found?
This is going to be funny. All right, so this is going to be funny because just like everything else in my life, things have just worked out. Hard work pays off. So what happened? I was in college. I was dating this girl who was trying to get her real estate license. She was a year ahead of me in school, and she couldn't pass the real estate exam. And while we were dating, she was working as an apartment leasing agent, and they needed her to get her license in order to be able to get her career to the next point. So she told me she would pay for me to take the real estate exam and the real estate course with her if I would help her pass. So I was like, broke, hey, a new avenue, I'm in college. And I had no idea I was going to do it for a career. It was my backup. My parents wanted me to be an engineer, and everybody they knew in my little hometown was rich that was an engineer. So I thought, well, gosh, that's the pathway. Well, for me, it wasn't. I hated being an engineer. It's a great profession for others, but it didn't fit my personality. And this girl convinced me to do it. She never passed the exam, by the way. Still haven't passed it after all this time. I did pass it first time I took it, and put it on the shelf. But when I was 21 and still in college, I bought my first little house. And I bought it with my own license and didn't have to give somebody a commission, and realized right then, and it wasn't any get rich quick thing, because let me tell you, I was selling $30,000, $40,000, and $50,000 homes. These weren't what we're selling today. These things, every sale, I might make $300, $400 a sale. It was not a get rich quick thing. But I chose real estate because it chose me. I passed the exam. I had an engineering degree, didn't know what else to do. Came back, looked in the newspaper and saw the classifieds and said, hey, I'm going to go try this. But the point is, whatever I would have chosen, I was not going to allow myself to fail. The reason I got mono as an engineer is I was up at 4:30 in the morning, working till 9 o'clock at night, and had a road crew I was in charge of at 22 years old. That these guys were all in their mid 40s. They didn't want to listen to me. I thought I just got out of college. I thought I could party. Look, they go out and drink all night long. next morning I got to go dump a bucket of water on somebody to get them ready to go. I didn't see a good future there.
I love that.
I
Okay,
mean,
and
so it's not sexy like you want to think. I'd love to think this plan was great.
no, but you know what? It's so funny because there's so many people that are now experts in their field that I've spoken to over the years, and it's just happened by chance that they've got into that field. We have people who our clientele, so to speak, who are either looking to get into real estate, and a lot of them are new real estate agents. So why should they be in real estate? What would be your elevator pitch, so to speak, to why they should be in real estate?
For me right now, what I would tell you, first of all, if I were going to start in real estate, I would join a team, number one, because I think it's a business that you get to do stuff with other folks. And like, so over time, I've fallen in love with my clients, and my clients are not just my customers. They're all the other real estate agents in our whole market as well. Like Mike and I talk about this a lot. I don't compete with anybody but me. You know, when you start, you're competing with everybody else. You think, oh, I got to go kill this one or that one. And you know what? When you stop doing that and you start concentrating on competing with yourself, that's when the light bulb goes off, and that's when your elevator can go up, because I can't be 1% better as Mike McCann today, but I can be 1% better as Jim Allen. And for me, in my growth path as an agent, once I stopped worrying about what other people were doing and focused on me, and Mike was a part of that. I mean, to be honest with you, and it was a little bit earlier than he thinks. It was actually the late 1990s when we met originally. And because I remember that first convention when I met him, and it was either 97 or 98. And it was the first person I recognized in real estate that was me on the other side. Everybody else, he can tell you, we're standing in line with the top 11 or whatever it was. And all the rest of them look like Hollywood princesses who had, you know, I feel terrible even saying this, Mike, and I shouldn't, but you know, a lot of them had a lot of cosmetic work done. They were not real people. These were people that worked in, their average sales price might be $15 million. And I'm sitting there at the time, and mine might've been 180, and Mike's was probably 300. And you know,
Mine was about 70 then.
it's just different. I'm telling you. And you know, it's amazing how that tracks out. But why I would tell people to do real estate, you're in charge of you. You are at a point now. I say that, but the truth is the clients control you a lot in the beginning until you realize that the listings are the key to the whole business. But the real truth is there is no ceiling on where you can go. And I needed a profession, and I believe anybody starting needs something they can get gratification out of. My sister's a high school principal. No matter if she's the best one in the world and she's won awards for being, she's never going to make one dime more than she makes. My wife was an educator. My wife was a school teacher. She won Teacher of the Year in Wake County. We go to the award ceremony. She's going to get this big check, we think, right? Oh, man, she won this great award. The check was for $25. Swear to God, they had everybody in black tuxes. We're doing everything. They give it to you in an envelope so you don't open it. Well, I get back to right away, right? Moment I open the thing up and realize it's $25, I'm mad. Her dad took the check and gave it back to the superintendent of schools and said, hey, I value your award. You do. Thanks for the award, but no thanks. So, I mean, my point is, most professions have a cap. Most professions, you're in someone else's path and they judge you as to what you can or can't do. In real estate, you can get up in the morning and look in the mirror and decide, I'm going to bust my fanny today because I don't want to be where I was yesterday. And, you know, Mike can tell you this, we are constantly, once you start competing with you, I can't let me down from last year. I've got to be better this year than I was last year. It's not about anybody else. This is about, I either got to go forward or go back, and I'm not going back. So,
Amen.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, you know, that's just something that a lot of new people who are in the business are now going through this, you know, what we're going to see as a downturn. A lot of people will be questioning, and the comfort zone is to go back to that 9 to 5, go back to that, you know, salary job. Whereas
Scott, I hate hearing you say that. You're saying we're coming into a down. No, we're not. We're coming into an opportunity zone.
Yeah.
That's where you're wrong. Because where my business springboarded, all right, and Mike can tell you, where I went to this next level was in 08 when everybody else was on their backs. That's when I jumped. That my business went to another level then because I went back all in. Look, a guy that doesn't never have anything, I can put all the chips on the table every day and without fear, because what I got to go back to was the happiest time of my life. Living in that 1-bedroom house, dude, I'm good for it right now. Let's go back. It's a whole lot easier to maintain than my current shack. So I'm so in 08, I was ready to double down, and I did. Brother, trust me, I've been waiting for the next thing to happen to keep, because I'm going to double down again and go back and soar, because that's the scammers are going to get out of the business in the next 6 months. We won't, you know, the discounters, the people that are made up some other way to do business, they'll all be gone. Then
yeah, it's true. We've been talking a lot about, like we were saying just there, you know, a lot of people are going to be coming from fear right now, and the fear, the key word there is downturn. Whereas, like you were just saying, if you come from, you know, pushing yourself, always challenging yourself, it's an opportunity. And, you know, we spoke, Mike did a talk 2 weeks ago on this show, and we talked about how the downturn was the opportunity for him to be the #1 agent and succeed. And something I love that you're saying, and something I haven't met you before, Jim, but you can just tell, and you radiate this, is that you say, what can I control? And I can do this better. So that's what I'm going to do. That's how I can improve that's how I'm going to get the better numbers the next year. And you don't see something as as a hurdle you can't get over. You just say, all right, well, how can I get around it? What can I do next? And that leads on to my next question. You touched on this as well, but when you experienced your first downturn and you didn't know what was going on, right now you've got you say, I've been waiting for this, but when you first experienced this as an agent and you had no idea what was going on, what was going through your mind? How did you approach it? And did it make you a better agent? Which you've already answered that part.
My first one was in the late 80s, and unfortunately that downturn, interest rates were at 18.5% to 20%. So there were obstacles in my path. I had to become a mortgage expert, truthfully. I had to really learn how to do 1-year ARMs, because a person could get a 10.5 or 11% 1-year ARM, but they couldn't afford the fixed rate payment. And figuring out their lives for them is how I got through that first downturn, because I went from someone selling houses to selling payments for that short period of time, because payments were all people could think about. It wasn't about, but again, at the time, there were no 100% loan programs then either, by the way. People had to have some down payment and had to have had some savings. And, a lot of what I was doing at that part to get forward was teaching people how to save money, things I didn't even know how to do myself necessarily yet. I had to become an expert for them. And what I focused on in that first downturn is what I could control. And what I could control was becoming a resource for the people around me for their whole lives, not just real estate. If they wanted to know what vet to go to, or what doctor to go to, or, where's the best place in town to eat, whatever they had in the beginning years, I get a phone call 10:30 at night, and my girlfriend or whoever at the time would be asking me, wait a minute, this person calling you at 10:30 at night to figure out where to go eat? What's this got to do with what you do for a living? I said, that's what you don't understand. I don't sell real estate from 8 to 5. I am a real estate broker all the time. And it doesn't change. That's something most of us, and especially in this current generation, they think they are something, but they put that on a shelf. And I'm only that for this little short period of time, but rest of my life, I'm going to control. Well, no, because once you try to put it in a box, it won't grow outside the size of that fishbowl you put it in. You know, I used to tell everybody I was a big fish in a really small bowl when I worked at Powell and Company. And as I grew my bowl and went to my first national convention with Prudential and wasn't in the top 100, wasn't in the top 1,000 when I went to the first one. But that first time when I looked at everybody, they didn't look that much different. And, you know, they looked a lot better. They had better clothes. But I looked at them and said, uh-oh, I'm not in the top 1,000. I can't do this. So I remember calling a guy named Robert Helms. And this doesn't directly answer your question, but it's wherever you are. Guy gave me I said, hey, what's the top 10? These guys with these cool blue badges. What do they produce annually to get one of those? You know, how many homes do they have to sell? What are they? He laughed at me. I mean, literally laughed in my face and said, hey, you're a good agent, man, but you'll never compete with those guys. Okay. Challenge his own. Challenge his own. Let me promise you, that was in 1995. In 1996, the next year, I came back to the national convention. I was number 6 and number 8 in the world after not being in the top 1,000 the year before, because I took the other guys' numbers, I put them on a billboard in my office, and to figure out how to get to number 10, that's all I was trying to do is get to number 10. How many homes do I have to sell this week? And today, I broke it down to today, how many do I have to sell to get the most units? I wasn't even worried about the volume part of it. I just wanted the units first. Well, I got both in 1 year. And when we went to the national convention, my broker in charge at the time had no idea that I was getting, back then they didn't tell you ahead of time. Nobody knew. They didn't have computers hardly. And nobody knew. Let me tell you what, they were in shock when I went. So when they said that year when I left, again, same guy, Robert Helms, one of my best buddies, but Robert said to me when I left, man, what a great accomplishment. I was number 6 and 8, man. How do you get to be number 1? I can't let that many people beat me. I looked at them, they're not that much different. That became the new goal. So in the downturns, my 97, you know, we went into another downturn in 97. My downturn in 97, I learned from my experience in 87. How do I get my business? Now I got clients. Go back to my current clients. They know me. I tell them the story. Hey, man, just like you, I got to make a living. I started helping them buy investment properties during that downturn and turned a lot of people, Joe and Barbara Abbott, who are still current clients of mine, who invest in my development deals now, Mike. Those guys started buying houses, and they started buying a bunch of houses, you know, 12 to 15 rentals a year. Another buddy of mine was building them. I was getting both sides of the commission. But guess what? I was building wealth for them at the same time. And all these years later, they still trust me. So in 08, when we went into the downturn, this was the worst one we had faced. And everybody was scared completely to death. First thing I did, I went to my local banks. I said, guys, my builders, y'all don't want to loan them money. What have I personally got to do to get you to loan money to them? And I made a deal with a local community bank. And I'd saved up a little bit of money by this point. Like when you grow up with nothing, you can save a little bit. So they said, hey, if you put a $500,000 CD in our bank, then we'll loan $5 million in development loans. It's not like a no-brainer. So I went and found 4 banks, and I put $500,000 each in each one of them. Didn't tell my builders. My builders, no idea. They're thinking they're getting these loans on their own, right? I just told them where to go because I didn't want them to think they owed me something. Now, years later, they know now because I can't keep a secret, so I told them. But then I was doing it to help them. And that's the whole gig. You cannot be afraid of anything. Fear is what paralyzes some people. It's what motivates and drives people who want to succeed. Fear is my best ally. I wake up every day. Mike can tell you, when you get to a certain platform, staying there is much harder than getting there. Staying there, other people are chasing you. They see you in their sights. You don't get to look at them because they're behind you. If you turn around and look, trust me, they're going to be passing you while you're looking. I don't do that in any kind of race. So all I can do is wake up every morning and say, okay, Jim, you did this last year. You're saying we're going into a downturn. I'm telling you, I'm up 45%. And through COVID last month, when everybody in the world is saying nothing happened, year previous, I sold 119 houses. I sold 131 this year during COVID. I went up 12 units in what you shouldn't be able to, right? It's a skeletal staff working in my team right now. Skeletal, when I say that. My normal team is all out in their homes, just like everybody else. There are a few of us who venture in every day to the office because we were considered, you know, our governor ruled that real estate's essential. Now, when you're closing the number of units we're closing, could we do it virtually all this? Yeah, we could, but I'm a hands-on guy and I'm just going to do it that way. So, you know, do I have a mask? Yeah, I got one. I got all the other things, and I worry about it, but I worry more going to the grocery store than I do coming to my office, right?
Jim, so one great thing that you said there was, and a piece of advice I think everyone could take is, you know, you saw this, you wanted to be number 1, and you said, okay, how can I break that down? All right, well, let's just focus on what do I need to do to be number 10. And then you broke it down into bits, you know, you scaled it and you said, all right, now what can I do today? And I think with this journey that everyone's going on right now, and every day seems like we're in Groundhog Day, you know, that is an important question that everyone should be asking. Don't, you know, yes, have 10 years in mind and how to be number 1 or how to be this, but what can you do today and just keep doing that and just keep moving forward. So my question to you is, I'm an agent right now. You can only give me 3 pieces of advice. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to an agent to enable to see them, get them to see this as an opportunity?
First,
3 pieces of advice.
Number 1, you got to recognize that you're running a business, and it doesn't matter whether there's 1 of you or there's 500 of you. It's a business that you're running, and a business can only run if you understand the financial aspects of it. So what I would tell you, you got to, in order to scale, and scale is a good word. I like Mike, it's cool. He knows these good fancy words, but scale is a good idea. But if you don't know what scale is yet, and when you don't have any business yet, you've got to nurture each piece of it. But the very first thing you need to do is keep your own self accountable. Get yourself a board. Mine had to be really visual. It sits in my office. Now mine now is on my computer screen, but I still have it. I have to compete with myself. So the first year in business, you don't have a first year to compete with, right? So if you do 1 house this year, you're better than you were. But so you have to break it down in days. If your first day you didn't sell a house, what did you do good that day? What did you do? So whatever it is, I've got to document what it is so I can increase it the next day. That's how you start scaling your business in your terms. And then once you have a year in the bank, and I think once you have a year there, you've made it almost, because if you survive your first year and pay your taxes and do everything else, and you still have a penny left, you survive. Well, now you got the bones to make the whole thing work. You put your first year up on the board. You start with your first month, but Mike can tell you, if you're chasing a month of yours from the previous year, even that's too large to grasp. So then you break it down into a week. If I take my month and I break it down into a week, how many units is that? And then how many is that in a day? Then you know when to schedule. So at first, when people aren't used to working as hard, and that's how you build up your work ethnicity, you learn to work harder and better by doing it. Like the first time you go to the gym, you don't pump out 300 on the bench press. You build up to 300. by working. So once you figure out how many units you've got to do or what it takes to get that, and you've got to note chronology for yourself. You don't have to go read any other books. You created your own book. Now, I've got all those notes. I've got some of them still sitting in drawers in my desk. People try to get me to turn those into books. Well, they were my book and they drove me. I think, yeah, it would be helpful to give that to someone else, but they can do the same thing without having to pay me or get anybody else there by simply doing what I'm saying. And if you set your goal, very small goals, every month, I want to be 1% better than I was the previous year once you got 1 year in the bank. Now, what you're going to find out is you're going to be bettering it by 20 or 22%. That's what I found over my course of my life in real estate is month over month, most years, I was anywhere from 20 to 22% better the next year. Now, even at this stage last year, from the previous year, went up 18.2% from the previous year. You know, not where my goals are, because now I want every year to be 20% more. But that's the number one thing. All right, the number two thing is to realize how many relationships you already have that will benefit you. People are so afraid to call other people and ask them for help. You don't mind going to the dry cleaners and paying them to do your laundry, but you're afraid to ask them, do they have a house? Why? You know, everywhere I go, I can promise you there's a guy in town here where I eat sandwiches all the time named Billy. And Billy's owned a company or a little restaurant called Boondini since the early 70s. He wears JAG gear. JAG's our acronym for our company, JAG, Jim Allen Group. So he's got a JAG vest he wears every day to work. Why does he wear it? I gave it to him. We were going to a basketball game one night. He was a little bit cold, so I gave him my vest, and he wears it every day in his restaurant. Now, I don't know that everybody coming in there asked, but more realtors eat lunch in this restaurant than any other place in town. And he's only got my gear on. So it's one of those things. Leverage the relationships you have, all of them. When you go out to dinner, when you get to again in the future, not COVID, future, when you go, that server, don't discount them. They're the next buyer. Look at them and say, hey, listen, real estate has changed my life. I learned how to invest. I had nothing. I was poorer than you've ever thought of being when I started. But real estate's been a vehicle that's made me wealthy. And I can tell you it can do the same thing for you and start right then. You know,
so you're going back to saying, rather than thinking of it as a box and it's an 8 to 5 job, you know, you got to have your real estate antennas on, so to speak, everywhere you go. Everyone's an opportunity to get another client to build that relationship, right?
Absolutely. Always. And capitalize on them, because the one that you gain that day, that server you're talking to at the table the next week, they got another friend. That other friend, once they see them get a little bit ahead, guess what? They're going to bring their friend. Everybody wants to help their friends out, and it mushrooms. You know, I was so caught up in wanting to sell. I remember in the early 90s, you know, around the country, other people were selling $1 million homes. We didn't have any, but I wanted it so bad, man. I was chasing it. Couldn't figure out why I couldn't get that kind of sale. Well, I wasn't ready for it. I wanted it, but I was not mature enough yet. The people that surrounded me weren't wealthy enough to get it. My client base hadn't grown into it. You know, this week I sold 5 already over $1 million now, but back then I didn't sell my first $1 million house until 1998. And it was one, and it was like, oh man, I sold it. I finally got there. You know, and I've been in business since 83. Look, wait a minute. So everybody thinks, the other funny thing is, this is not a business to get into for a day. It's a lifestyle and forever. Mike McCann will never retire. Jim Allen will never retire. He and I have talked about this. You know, retirement is death for me, because, you know, in the Bible, God worked 6 days. He rested 1. It doesn't say anywhere in there, hey, go take off 7 days and don't do anything. When our brain goes leisure, it goes away. It's a muscle like everything else we do. We gain on it constantly. The other thing I would tell everybody, and this would be a big advice point, do not beat yourself up constantly, because, you know, Mike, I'm sure can attest to this. We ride these high and low waves. When you get up here, when you're jacked up, that $1 million house I sold, I couldn't stay up there in these clouds. If I stayed up there all the time, nobody would want to do business with me. They would think I was too cocky. When you get down here in the bottom, though, trust me, who wants to deal with somebody who's down and depressed and negative? They don't. What I realized, I got to stay right here in the middle. I am a high energy guy, but I got to stay where my energy I can control all the time for people to know what they're getting from me. People don't walk in and one day, Jim, I'm not bipolar. I'm not one day down here and one day up here. I'm always right here, and they know where I'm at. You know, being transparent is another part of this business. There's nothing wrong with the person understanding that you're making money as a result of this, because you're making money for them at the same time. When people feel like they're hiding things from people, they don't want to do business with them. Be very transparent in your focus and your goals. Don't be afraid to involve your clients. I wish I had involved my clients sooner in my business, because I've made some other people wealthy as a byproduct of my business. And, you know, the other thing, don't be afraid to try something new. And don't listen to someone else. If you're trying something and someone else comes in and says, hey, that's not a great idea, how do they know? Because they're not trying it. You are. Everything works, but don't stop doing something. Once you start, whatever it is, keep doing it. I don't care what the piece of advice you read. You can't put it all in your business, but over time you can add more and more and more. But once you've added something, unless, I'll give you an example, unless we no longer have these big phones that you can barely carry like our first cell phones were, me switching to a BlackBerry from that was like monumental in my career. And then to go to the iPhone from the BlackBerry, I mean, I was a crackberry. Pulling me off of that thing was almost impossible. And people were on iPhones for years before I made the switch. I made the switch when they finally couldn't do anything else, you know. So don't give up on things until they put themselves to bed, because the things in your path that you do in terms of getting new clients, et cetera, will work in every environment until that doesn't work anymore. When the do not call laws came out and we weren't supposed to be doing cold calls, you know, you had to find ways around it. Didn't mean we stopped making phone calls, because the phones still work. But one of these days in y'all's lifetime, people won't be making them. We'll only be instant messaging someone or the other stuff. But the last piece of advice on those three would be this: relationships are personal relationships. You cannot have a relationship with somebody over text or Instagram or Facebook or any kind of communication. Email is not a form of communication, period. And I tell you, the biggest arguments I get in with agents on my team, I ask them, hey, have you talked to your client this week? Oh yeah, I talked to him several times. Okay, when'd you call him? Well, I emailed them and they sent me. You didn't talk to them. You emailed them. Hey, strangers email me every day. I get 1,500 emails a day that my assistant goes through before we filter down to mine. Those are strangers. I don't even know them. You know, why am I going to respond to them? Do you want to be that person, or do you want to be the person's on speed dial with them? You become on speed dial with them when you have the time for them. Mike and both have realized this over our careers. Other agents, when they want to compete with me, their way of competing nowadays, they'll say, well, you know, Jim does so much business, there's no way he has time for you. My clients are shocked. When I go to list their homes, I spend more time than anybody else there, because guess what? I'm only going once. Me, that first time, I'm not going back.
Jim, it's funny you say that, because I've shadowed Mike on listing appointments, and I can't tell you, you know, by the end of it, they walk in at the beginning and everyone's saying hi. By the end of it, Mike's doing push-ups on their dining set. Oh, no, not that.
Or you're hugging. Look, when you leave, you're loving each other and hugging.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me just say something there. But one of the things that you hear from Jim is early on, it's a relationship business. He's living, breathing, eating, sleeping as a realtor. Or, you know, early in the 80s, about developing relationships. Then it's about being their air traffic controller, restaurant, pharmacy, this one, who they refer you. I mean, they're asking you because you're important in their life. Thirdly, competing with yourself. I mean, he's just like me. I compete with myself. Other realtors are not my competition. I want them all to do great too. It's competing with myself every day with myself. And then number 4 is in the downturns. What did he do? He helped other people with their business. I'm so proud of the fact that I've helped many people invest in real estate and become wealthy from owning real estate, slow and steady. It's not a short run game. So those are some, besides, you know, no one will outwork Jim or I, but it's not that we outwork. This is who we are. We care about the people. We compare ourselves with ourselves. We help people without asking. I mean, when his builders, and we spoke deeply, were losing everything, would have lost everything. He silently helped them. And now those builders have gone to the whole next level. He's partners with them. He's doing stuff. And that was because that's who he is. He cared about these guys and helped them.
Yeah.
And that's true. And listen, I want to piggyback on that, because I got one more piece of advice I can give that will help someone new, old, middle, doesn't matter where it is. When you go to people for a listing, if I call a bunch of builders or developers, you call them in your market, if I called a bunch of them and said, hey guys, I want to go list your property, something they've already created, right? They're bringing the opportunity, and all I want to do is stick my sign in front. Then I'm taking from them, right? So what I recognize very early is I've got to go kill some meat and take it to them, so that then they give me their kill. And I make sure we understand the typical relationship, right? I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. I apologize.
I was laughing. I was laughing to kill.
Okay.
You know,
because say here's the deal. So I take them something, but I take it with this string, and it is a string, and I pull it. I say, listen, I'm going to provide you with these opportunities to go do this. The next one you get, though, you got to let me be the listing agent on, because I'm going to feed you every time I get an opportunity. If you don't feed me back, it's a one-way relationship, and we won't go very far, and I'll have to go find some new guys to do business with. I will never wish you bad, but if you're not helping me, I can't help you. That you do have to get to that point. And even on a smaller scale with buyers and sellers, you tell them, hey, you want my time. I only have one commodity I control, my time. If I'm going to pour myself into you as your buyer's agent, you can't be working with 15 other people. If you're not going to be loyal to me, then I'll be honest, I'll have to find more loyal clients than you, because I'm a 24/7 guy. If I'm going to put myself in there for you, I can't be half in and half out. I'm not a fence dweller. You're either in or you're out with me. And that's the way it is. But so as a realtor, I don't fear calling my clients, because I'm not taking something from them. Every client I have, I feel like I'm giving more than I'm taking. So there's no shame in the phone call.
It's what I always say, and these guys heard me, and 1 and 1 is 3. They don't need me. I don't need them. But together we need to be 3. Jim, I want Jim's heard about you for years. So Jim's been with me 20 years. Jim took the developers from little investors and made them very successful. He probably does 100 million himself on my team. Jim, He's awesome. He knows a lot about you. He knows a lot about me, our old school values and hard work and loyalty to people and stuff. So Jim, what do you want to say to Jim? What do you want to say to Jim?
Yeah. Great stuff, Jim. Yeah, one question for you. Like Mike has always told us that the more successful you get comes with responsibility, right? He has more responsibility now than he did before he built such a great business and a great family. And Mike has built our team like a family. For your organization, I mean, you've built this incredible business and you're obviously a tremendous team leader. What's the biggest challenge with running a big team like yours? And also, what's the biggest reward for having such a big, productive team like yours?
The biggest challenge is I don't hire all the same people. So I've got a lot of different personality makeups within my business because I want to be able to serve everybody. So I intentionally don't duplicate who I hire. You know, it's if I were an IBM and I put them in a mold and I print them out, it would be much easier to manage those people, right? Because they'd all be the same. But I would only sell this one particular type of person. So like, you know, a lot of the teams out there, if you look at them, if you see pictures of their team, all the people on that team look identical. I mean, you know, you could cut them out of little Barbie silhouettes and they'd all be the same. I personally believe that limits their ability to do business. I want to have a broader spectrum, but with that comes managing different personality types. My biggest thing is keeping people out of the highs and lows. Managing a team, I don't care who it is, all of them have bad days. Making it not become a trough day, keeping it where it's just below middle. And how I can do that is sharing experiences that I've gone through and how I got past them, but also by being willing to listen to it. You know, my wife a couple of nights ago was looking at my iPad and looking at my messages, and she starts reading it and she's looking at it and thinking, I've got like, I don't know, almost every agent on my team's left me some kind of personal message during the day. And at some point in it, I told every one of them I love them, or if it's somebody that needed to hear it that day, and it doesn't matter what they really look like, I told them they were beautiful or whatever else. My wife, this stuff, my wife's like, wait a minute, you shouldn't be talking to people like that. I said, that's where you're wrong. I don't have filters. I'm not concerned about that because I know the innocence of my integrity, so it doesn't matter. So when I tell someone they're beautiful, I might be looking at their heart. It doesn't have anything to do with what they look like on the outside. And learning to tell people you love them, like that was a big bridge for me. Until I had kids, I didn't know how to voice that to someone else. Growing up this hard knocks, tough dude my whole life, I never learned how to love. I never learned how to say it. But guess what? Back in 1995, 2005, I'm sorry, it's not even 1995, 2005, I had my first child. Oh man, I got a 12 and a 14-year-old and I'm 59. And I'm gonna tell you, best thing that ever happened to anybody. But when I did, I started Bible Study Fellowship at the same time. I put my faith and my family at the forefront in my whole life. Man, it's unbelievable how much it's changed things. But I'm not afraid. Like if you see my Facebook post, I don't fear commenting on political situations or anything else, because if I'm not somebody that stands for something, then I'm nothing. So you cannot be afraid. We are leaders. Other people out there are looking at us, and if we don't lead every day, and you can't be on the fence and lead. So that's a challenge with the team, big time. But the reward from having a team, oh my God, every day I get to share in their enthusiasm. I have learned through coaching my own team, through my own guys selling, when they call me at midnight and tell me they just made their biggest sale ever, and it doesn't matter if I'm asleep, I'm as jacked up as they are right that second. And that's something I didn't know I could experience. I hesitated, like everything else. I'm slow to the game. I hesitated in the 90s, you know, starting a team. Just like Mike, it was us. We were, you know, we could do it all by ourselves. Well, you know what? The people who were doing it with the team at that point weren't the right people. They were people that were doing it to make themselves wealthy, but they didn't care about their teams. So I watched what they were doing, and I said, you know what? If I ever did a team, here's what I would do different. And again, people challenge it. This girl, Dorothy, she's a big time agent up in New York. When Mike and I are at a national convention, this lady telling us that, you know, she's got 18 showing agents. None of them are licensed, by the way. So she calls herself an individual agent because she just happens to have 20 employees that don't have license. Well, everybody, let me tell you what, my delivery guy on my team, who, by the way, and I'm not even going to call him that, he is the manager of my sign business. He's got his real estate license. Why? Because when he's sticking the brochures in front of our house, somebody might walk up and want to go in it. He sold 7 houses year before last from running into people standing at the sign in front of houses.
Wow.
Why would I limit him, right? I don't have a person on my team that I limit, not my closing coordinator, not my listing coordinator, nobody. And I also, the other thing as a team leader, the rewards and the things I've grasped and gotten out of it, I don't make people specialize into, oh, these are the listing agents, these are the selling. If you don't have multiple irons in a fire, I don't care what you do for a living, you better have a lot of irons in the fire, because it's not one commission that determines your year. It's all the pieces of commissions added up that determine your year. And you want to be as part of as many as you can. So the other thing with a team, the first thing I had to teach my team to do is to share. If I could share, why couldn't they? So I have to be the most generous person on my team so that they all know to be generous with their time, their space, their money. To this day, all my new onboards, when they come onto my team, my newbies will call me and, I'm so sorry to bother you, Mr. Allen. I'm like, who is Mr. Allen? What guy is that old dude? Because it ain't me. We don't want to even talk about that guy. But there's that fear. And then I got my geezer squad. So I got a Buck 70 squad too that works for me. And I love those dudes. And you know who mixes the best? The geezers and the newbies. Man, the geezers can't wait to pass on their knowledge, and the newbies will suck it up from them because it's not their parent telling them, but it is somebody else old that they respect who's been through the wars. And,
yeah,
you know, it's
Jim,
I'm
Jim,
sorry.
that's something that I think I've heard many experts in their field say, and you just hit the nail on the head. And I think leaders who are part of this call can take away from this is the best form of leadership is modeling the behavior that you wish to see. You can't be a hypocrite. You have to lead by example. You have to be the most giving person. You have to be the most loving person. You have to be up here. Like you said, you have to lead an example. And I think that is something that those people that truly do that in their business are the ones that have, you know, people in their team for 20 plus years, because they know in their heart, they know in their heart.
My longest buyer's agent, 26 years, Harry.
Wow.
Hey, Nicole, go grab Harry. I want to introduce him. Okay, trust me. But it's funny, you know, here's the thing. You just hit the nail on the head. Here's a small example. COVID-19 comes. I'm thinking, what can I do for the families on my team? Just what's one thing I can do? Well, a local vendor of mine, Cook Shack, does all my catering for my events. Well, guess what? Guess who's hurting the most right now? They don't have events going on. They don't know what to do. So I can help 2 people at one time. I called him on the phone. I said, hey, listen, I want to send out meals. And I sent meals for 6. And by the way, when this guy takes a meal for 6, it'll feed 15. I mean, it's so much food, 15 people can eat it. And these families can eat it 2 and 3 times. So I took every member of my team and I sent them these meals. I let them choose. We had our Zoom meeting last Thursday. In our Zoom meeting, I told them all, hey, pick a day and a time when it's convenient for you. And I've got my caterer personally delivering these meals to their houses. And now they're putting posts on Facebook about getting this meal from me and from Cook Shack, helping their business, helping me at the same time. But when they call me on the phone and say, my dad wants to talk to you, their granddad wants to talk to you. He can't believe you did this for us today. And he's so excited. Well, I don't even think it's any big deal. Look, the meals only cost $48 a piece. I mean, the guy who's doing this for me, how he does it, makes a living, I can't even imagine. But
the joy, you know, like from leading by example, by nobody works harder than you, Jim. Nobody works harder than me. Nobody cares more than you, Jim. Nobody cares more than you. By giving, nobody gives more than you. Nobody gives more than me. And leading by example, and then everybody sees that, and not everybody sees that. That's the people you bring on who you believe are going to be a lot like you with those same values. And what I love is so much of the, you know, young people see that many of the old school values apply today more than ever. It's not always the new flashy thing. You know, integrity, hard work, kindness, you know, giving, take work. Doesn't mean we have to be a wuss, because nobody's going to take advantage of you or me.
that's right.
And then, you know, leading the response, it was so much easier to be of a life when I didn't have to be responsible for anybody else, when I didn't have any money or any team. You know, now responsibility. But
Hey, hang on. Harry's walking in. Hang on.
Yeah.
So this is Harry Thorpe. Now, we don't look like twins or anything, I'm sure. Beautiful right here, Mike.
Want you to arm. No, you got to arm wrestle. He's got my look. I want you to
show
arm
him
wrestle.
show him the guns.
Man, damn.
Hey, but look, how many years? 26 years we've been dating, or 27?
27.
27 years we've been together, and I'm just telling you, best dude I ever met. You know why I hired him? We were at a house. It was one of my listings on Horseman Trail. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I go out, meet him at the house. He's doing an inspection for his clients. He brought them 2 sets of overalls to put on, jumpsuits. He puts on one, they put on theirs. They go in the crawl space together to inspect the crawl space together. I'm like, I got to hire this guy. And at the time, working for four home buyers company. I've never even thought of hiring a buyer's agent at this point. Certainly never thought of giving them listings on top of that, but he only knew you could sell. He didn't know you could list too. Now he lists as much as he sells, but the truth is 26 years later, we're family. We're brothers.
My man. Awesome.
Yeah.
We've been through every life experience 2 people can go through. I've known Harry longer than I've been married.
Yep.
Seriously, I've been married 24 years.
He was wild.
I can imagine. Dude, I can imagine.
Anyway, hey, buddy, I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
But
Ben, wrap
anyway,
this
I
up.
apologize. I'm sorry.
No, that was fun. Ben, wrap
Yeah.
this up for Jim. Do you have any more questions for Jim? Jimmy up.
No,
Any more
that
questions?
was amazing. Thank
Okay,
you.
man.
Thanks for your
So-
time, Jim.
Just to wrap this up, we have in our team, we have mechanisms, right? Quotes from Mike over the years, and we've grown this. You know, there's tons out there, and it's become our core values. So we have some McCann-isms that are like patience, persistence, overcomes resistance. You know, there's tons of famous quotes that Mike says that we live by. 3 Allen-isms. If you had 3 sentences, what would be 3 Allen-isms?
Oh, man, this
that you
dude
could leave
asks
everyone?
hard questions, Mike.
Yeah.
Mine's like Churchill. Never, never, never give up. The harder you work,
Well,
the
one
luckier
thing-
you get.
Just to give you an example, Jim, one thing that you
What do
said
you say
that
a
I
lot,
have,
Jimmy?
I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
Dude, it ain't like I can't answer.
you've never
Yeah, I've
said
talked
one
too
thing
much
that shouted
already.
out to me.
Yeah.
You said one thing that's already shouted out to me that is an Allenism, is that we all put our pants on the same way. That to me was that. I love that. That was fantastic. So,
And I say that, and that is now, and that was one of the ones I was just getting ready to go back to, because my things all came from my parents. Mine were all common sense, not other things. My next one is Tom Powellism, who generated it through me, who was my first boss. you don't list, you don't last. And people are always constantly chasing it. You can't create new buyers. You can create new listings every day. You know, I know there's a lot of people buying leads, never bought one yet. I may never buy one. I'd rather find than buying them. You know, and the last one is you cannot replace integrity, guys. You can have a lot of things, but you can't replace integrity. And the last one, you have two things. You can be honest and you can have a great credit report and you can have a great name. When you lose any of those three, you've lost it all and you can't go get it back. I'm a junior, so I'm carrying my dad's name. You're not my juniors, but you're carrying my name. Don't disgrace it, because if you catch yourself in a position of doing something that I wouldn't do, then don't do it.
Love it.
Nice. Nice.
Well,
this is Jim Allen from North
Mike
Carolina. Jim, what's your email and phone for any buyers agents for referrals?
It's Jim@JimAllen.com, Jim@JimAllen.com, and 919-845-9909. Been the same my whole life.
And it's Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
Raleigh, North Carolina. That's right.
Selling
Best place here.
Selling 1,500 homes a year.
Correct. And we got to go up a little. So this year, so far, we're averaging 9 sales a day. So
wow, incredible.
stay on a 9 sale a day for the rest of the year, which, hey, once you get on a treadmill, it's hard to get off. If I can stay there, it's going to be a big number this year.
And guys, and this guy's like me. He's in the field. He's, you know, listing and selling and building his car. Like, he's not sitting back in an office running a company. He's in the field. And that's why I love Jim. All that, everything. Man, so God bless you and your wife and your family, your team. I will talk to you again, of course. And I
can't wait till we're on the same tag team again. Like, look, there's nothing better. I'm telling you right now, I don't care if you were number one or I was number one. You are one of the few people in the world, Mike, just telling you, if you kicked my butt, it wouldn't bother me. Because
right at you, man.
I would sit there and say, my man deserved it. Hey, I'm number 2 right now.
I remember one year you were ahead of me. I'm like, yeah, Jim, that's great. It's great. I'm going to get that boy. I'm going to get that. You know, like,
absolutely,
we build each other up. I mean, that's what good friends do. That's what respecting people does. It's not like, oh, he did that. No way. You earned every second of it, man, and then some. And then you get back.
I know we got to go, but listen, let me just ask you this one thing, because this is a change in the world, I believe, Mike. When you and I started, nobody but me and you felt that way. All the rest of them were trying to gut each other, and good Lord, you went from one place to another and all they did was talk bad about each other, and they're going to need each other in the next deal. But you and I are those kinds of people always that respected other people. Listen, I always thought everybody else was out producing me. I've always underestimated wherever we were at that time. We didn't have this thing, broker metrics, they've got now to figure out where you were. Dude, there were 10 years in the 90s that I was the number 1 agent in this market. I didn't even know it. Everybody else swore they were number 1. I was like, shoot, well, they must be, because they wouldn't lie. But they weren't lying. You know, you find out later, hey, the local, our local Triangle Business Journal made them start having their numbers turned in from accountants. Holy cow, all of a sudden it all changed. Wow, I guess I was better than I thought I was. So it's good.
Okay, man. So is your son going to play baseball this year?
You better believe it, bro. And they're working out right now. Hey,
my man.
They're not resting either. You go to my house right now. They as soon as they get out of school, they got the nets out in the backyard killing it.
Yeah, listen, it's an open state. We might be hopping on a bus today, the whole team going down to North Carolina.
Look, I'm ready right now. I can put y'all, I got desks out here. Nobody else can get in. Come on in.
What is this baseball that you speak of? No, I'm joking.
Baseball,
you got like that cricket that lasts for 4 days. That's too long for us. We're too intense.
Ben?
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
It was amazing having you on. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
I'll talk to you soon. Okay,
Yes,
man.
sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.